Hi, welcome back to another video with myself, Joshua Robinson. This past weekend, I was working on 40 hours of film, an event run at the Australian National University where participants have 40 hours to write, direct, produce, film, edit an entire short film of 4 to 8 minutes in 40 hours or less. This was my fourth year doing it, and for this week's video I thought I would take you through what I did, and that's why this video is coming a little bit later and it's a little bit more unedited compared to my other stuff, because I'm just doing this off the cuff as is, no script, but I thought it'd be cool to see how I make these things, particularly under such a short time frame. So first of all, this is what my production software looks like. I use Cubase, and this is pretty much what the whole thing looks like. Zooming out, that was everything in the entire project. As you can see, it's not much. Goes up to less than 16 minutes of like the entire project, but really it was probably only about maybe, I don't know, 5 minutes of music overall in the project, maybe up to 10. You can see I've got a lot of blanks in there just from what I use, just to give myself some space in case I needed to expand anything out a bit more. It was all there. And then on the left hand side you see everything else. So this is how I structure my projects. There's sound design, there's percussion, tonal loops, and VSTs. That's just the order I like them in. If you're doing this yourself, you can probably put them in whatever order you like. Percussion's obviously the weirdest one there because some of these are actual VSTs, virtual sound instruments as well. But I like to have them separate because I think it makes a bit more sense for me to conceptualize it that way. All right, well now I'm just going to go in and show you what it looks like inside of these. So these are all folders, so inside each of these I have all the tracks that I use that fit into that particular section. So to start off with, we got the prompts and everyone was talking about maybe doing a horror sort of film, so that's just what this start is. It's just a horror kind of background going on there. Because I just wasn't sure what we were going to do, and that's how 40 hours always is. You're never sure what your writers are going to come up with, and even what the film's going to look like in the end. Unlike the real industry where you get a film to score at the end, here you're just writing stuff and hoping for the best. So that's kind of what I was doing here, just writing some very basic horror soundscapes that sound kind of nice and could maybe fit into whatever we were using. And there's a couple of other things, like there's this hit here, in case we were going to have a monster or something in there. There's these rises. Just something there to add in a bit of tension. I think this was a hit as well, just another little boom. But that was kind of all I did with the sound design. If we scroll back out, it's just that top bit there, because we ended up not going with a horror aspect to it. So I didn't really need to do any more work with that stuff, and actually none of that actually is in the film. So it just goes to show really that you can write this stuff and none of it actually ends up appearing in the final thing. That goes for the real industry as well, I guess, but here in 40 hours, it's just the way the trade goes. You never know what you're going to get. And at that point, there was some talk of a horror film, so I started writing horror stuff, and then we never ended up needing it. And that doesn't really matter. And then this next one was just some generic kind of happy music. So opening these up, this is just a percussive loop that I have around somewhere. And then these tonal loops are all just, there's a low one, a mid one, and a high one. And they're pretty much all designed just to have this dreamy sound effect going on in them. I've been told this one slaps. I believe the writing room was listening to it as they were writing it, just for something to hype themselves up. It's pretty good. This one doesn't end up in the actual film either, but I did use the same ideas for it later on, so I'll talk through that when I get there. I don't really consider any of this wasted kind of music. Once you have an idea, you can help put that into other things. So it's more important to get stuff down on the page rather than writing it and then, or not writing it and then not having anything at all. It's always better to just make a start somewhere, because, you know, part of this one I used later on. The other stuff I didn't use at all, but it only took an hour out of my time on the Friday night when I wouldn't be doing much else for 40 hours anyway. Most of the music I write on the Saturday and the Saturday night, maybe a little bit Sunday morning. Yeah, so there's didn't lose anything from writing that stuff. And it definitely helped me think about what I was doing later on. So yeah, I don't really consider it wasting any of this stuff. This next one was similar to the happy thing. I wasn't sure where we were going, what we were doing, so this was just kind of some kind of sad thing. It's got just a little loop there, and then it's got this kind of whistle thing that's about to come in. Something a little creepy, a little sad, a little remorseful. This also doesn't end up in the film. I think we were thinking about it, but it didn't. I wrote better stuff than that, so we didn't need to do any of that in the end. And then this is real interesting, because this wasn't used in the final thing, but this was the draft basically of what was in the final thing. So this is just a little what would become the love motif, because Murray, our producer, was like, can you write a love motif using the Dies Irae, which is a famous tune that appears in a lot of music. I think most famously The Shining. You'll hear it later. And so this was just me spitballing ideas on the Friday night as well. This was the last thing I wrote on Friday night. So again, this is just random draft stuff. Oh, that's not working. It's a little bit of a problem. I think that's just because sometimes these programs just don't work when you want them to work. That's quite annoying. Let me solo. Yeah, so that's just the violin going there, and then over the top of it I had this xylophone going. And so then if you just listen to the whole thing together. And as I was writing that, I finished it and then I went, that's still too creepy. So then I changed it just a little bit so that it's a slightly different rhythm to it. So you can hear that in the violin there. It's just the same thing, but I've just shortened one of the notes so that it doesn't quite sound as similar to the other thing. And here I think it's still... Yeah, it's not fully major. It's still a C natural instead of a C sharp. And later I change it into a C sharp. I hope that's what I've done anyway. Yeah, still a C natural. Later I would change that so it was actually a C sharp. So the whole thing was major. But as I was spitballing it, I just kind of kept it mostly the same, except changing the F to an F sharp. And I put the xylophone in because it reminded me a lot of Harry Potter, that tune. The one, I can't remember what it is anymore, but for some reason I was just getting Harry Potter vibes, and I remembered there being a xylophone in that, so that's why I put that in there. Murray told me it sounded too Christmassy, so there's no more xylophones in the rest of the project. But this was really good because I was able to just copy and paste this later on and use that as that is what the love theme is for the rest of the thing. So again, not wasted. It was good to get that sorted on Friday night, because then I came back on Saturday I did a Rogaine at the same time as 40 hours of film. So I came back on the Saturday after running for 6 hours, and then I already had a lot of this stuff ready to go. I just had to kind of position it where it needed to go. So that's that bit. And then, so that was all Friday night. Saturday, as I mentioned, I had the Rogaine, and then I came back and started work at about 6 p.m, I think, when they were just about to finish filming. So way 40 hours usually works is Friday night is the writing, Saturday is the filming. Simultaneously, the editing is started while the filming's still going on, and then Saturday night is when all the filming wraps. I can't speak. The filming wraps up Saturday night, and then post begins all through the night. And this year was really good because I actually got the music done fairly early. I was able to go to bed by midnight, I think, on the Friday night. Usually I stay up all night working on it. So it was good that I was able to get some sleep this year. That's the first for me. So yeah, a bit more efficient. And so this one here is, we had several montages in the film, and this is what they told me they wanted. They wanted something with a beat that they could edit to, and then something like Parker Bell's Canon that's just super boring and super easy to portray a really mundane character's life. So you can see that in the film as well. It's not out at the moment, but it'll be out tomorrow night. You can, if you follow me on my social media channels, you can see it there. I'll be posting it. So wink, wink, nudge, nudge. If you haven't already followed my Facebook and my Twitter and my Instagram and whatever else I've got, I'll lose track. So yeah, this is the montage theme. They told me they were going for a very Wes Anderson feel the Saturday morning before they went out and filmed after they'd finished the script, because I also slept Friday night, so I wasn't there when they finished the script. And obviously Wes Anderson films have a lot of cutting to music. In the end, they didn't actually cut to the music, but my music was so good that it just fits in naturally, which you'll see with the film. Like, it's not perfect, but it's better than how it could have been. So that's not bad, and I'll just play this now. So just something a little bit nice there, and then there's, oh, the cello's not playing. It'll get there. It'll get there. Yeah, now it's there. It stopped again. Wow. I'm just going to put the volume up a bit so you can hear it. The cello's really quiet. I kept the same cello for pretty much everything, so I didn't have to load it again and again, and then I would just change the volume whenever I needed to do anything. And there the violins come in over the top of the cello. Very Parker Bell's Canon, very similar stylistically to that. That's pretty much all that goes on in this piece. And the violins cut out again there. That's all that piece is. It's just something very simple, very quick and easy to listen to and write. Because I thought we would have more time to go back and edit this, so if it needed to be longer, it could be longer. If it needed more stuff happening in it, if it needed more instruments, we could add them. As is, this is just the final version that ended up in the mix. These drums are actually some action sort of drums from something I have for an action set, but they kind of a little bit funky, and it goes at 98 beats per minute, so that's how that goes. And then the rest of that, they had two more montages that they wanted, which were the same thing but just faster. So all I did was I exported that, and then I just put it in again, and I just sped it up. So you can't actually see it, I don't think, but all I did for that is I went and I did a transform on the audio so that it would sound faster. So this one's at 108, so an extra 10 beats per minute faster. That's all that goes on there. And those pitch transformations keep all the pitch the same. They just speed up the rhythm. And then there's this one as well, which is 118 beats per minute, so another 10 beats faster as well. they never actually ended up doing 3 montages because of the time requirement, so we just stuck with the first and second montage music, because obviously the second one is 2 steps removed away, so as you speed it up more and more, it becomes worse and worse quality wise. So we just stuck with the first 2, which weren't, the first one's obviously fine, and the second one isn't too bad, speeding it up by 10 beats per minute. Yeah, but they were all there ready to go if they needed more of them. And then this third one, there was a 4th montage, which is actually the third one that we see. And this is where the happy music kind of makes its comeback. So for starters, they had this soul groove going on in the percussion. So all I did for this is, I don't know if this is going to show up on the recording. No, it's not. Otherwise I would show it. It's just a drum instrument. So this is a virtual instrument, so it has a drum kit attached to it, and it comes with a whole bunch of different grooves. So this one was called Soul Groove 01. I think there's 10 different versions for each groove. This is just the one that was closest in beats per minute to what they wanted. I think they told me 112. So 107, slightly less, but I thought it suited the more upbeat nature of the montage. This is the bit where the main character is feeling happy again. So it's a little bit more funky. It's a little bit more enjoyable and happier. And that was the closest thing I could find to the rest of, to the BPM, while still maintaining that emotional punch that they wanted. Then we have Dreamy Plucks, which if I play this, so this is just a loop basically of 2 intervals. They're just not even a full chord, they're just 2 things. But that was very much inspired by that earlier happy piece, and I hope that comes across there. It's very much a dream gate cloud kind of feel there. That was using Ethereal Earth, which is the first time I've used that set of virtual instruments. And then over the top of that, we've just got these violins coming in that just play the other 2 notes, if they'll actually play the other 2 notes of a chord, if the bottom 2 are the... So if these are all 7th chords, so the Dreamy Plucks play the bottom 2 notes and the violins play the top 2. And so all together that kind of comes into place, and you got the Dreamy Plucks for a little bit to set it up, and then the violins. Yeah, well, my computer's not keeping up at the moment. There we go. Yeah, I hope you kind of get the idea. My computer's struggling a little bit, I think, recording and playing both of these at the same time. It has trouble just playing these on a normal day. So, yeah, I'm not sure why I'm too surprised. But you can see there, you can hear it. It's just a nice little bit of happy extra music over the top of that there. I thought the violins were a nice touch. They kind of just add a little bit of something extra into it. And then these last few are just different versions of the love theme, which I took a bit of time coming up with on the Saturday night. So these are all just... I came up with this one, and then they were all just copy-paste jobs, pretty much. So this first one here, it's in the brass to begin with, if it'll want to play through, which it doesn't seem to want to. You get the idea, hopefully. That is just the exact same section. That's why it says violin in it, even though it's playing in the brass. It's the same thing from the Friday night draft that I came up with for those love themes. I just copied and pasted it over. So that's that. That's the love theme. And then this next bit is just me playing notes on a keyboard. And then at the end here, another copy paste job. Same theme. It's just in a different instrument this time. It's in the winds, the high winds. And then in the cello, what's going on here is it's just playing random chords, basically. Not entirely random, but it's just playing chords over the top of whatever's going on below it. And for this, I actually found something really cool, which is this Chord Pad feature, where you don't even have to play the chords physically. So I have a keyboard that I use, and the great thing about this is I didn't actually have to play the chords perfectly. I'm not actually a keyboardist, so I'm not trained in any way, and I find it a bit difficult to keep in mind what I'm actually trying to play when I have to play chords, especially Saturday night with not much sleep in a 40 hours after running for 6 hours in the middle of the day. So great thing about this is you can click one of these buttons and it will just play the chord for you. It already has it all set up. And so all you have to do is just press this button for a D chord, and then you can go down and press the B chord, and then you can press the E minor chord, and then you can press this F sharp 7 chord. And it's great. You don't actually have to play anything, which was a real big time saver for me, because I could just hit those buttons and then I could fix it up later. So that's all I did in this cello section. I just played the notes that fit to what this violin was playing. Sorry, not violin, the brass mid section was playing. And then here, right at this section, I knew what I wanted to have, because we're in D major, because that's the best, for me, that's what I think the best key for the DSE rate is. So here we have an A chord, which is the fifth, the 5 chord in D, and then it resolves to the D major when the winds high come back in. So I'll play that and hopefully it'll all work, but fingers crossed. It's not working. That's sad. There you go. So it worked just briefly enough there to hear it. But you've got the A holding over on this note here, which is a G. So it's a nice A7. And then when the winds high come in, it resolves to the D. So it's just really nice. It's just, I don't know what to say. I wrote this and I called Murray over and I said, have a listen to this. And he said if he wasn't dehydrated, he would cry. So there you go. I don't actually think this actually appears in the final film. I think we only have this little section here of the high violins. Not high violins. I keep getting confused because I see violin. It's in the winds. I keep thinking... Only that wind section actually appeared in the final thing. I don't think we have this nice resolution appear in the film, which is quite sad, because I think this is one of the best things I've written in a 40 hours, even though it's very simple. I mean, looking at it, it's only, 3 instruments actually going on there. But then great thing about virtual instruments is it all does the arranging for you. So I didn't actually have to care that much about what I was writing, because the brass mid, it would just take the brass instruments and put them together. The winds high arranged, it just arranges the high winds into whatever you need. And this one was actually inspired a lot by John Williams. I went and listened to Han and the Princess from Star Wars, which is kind of similar to what this does. It has a brass thing and goes into a high winds, and it's got a nice resolution in that as well. So a very simple version compared to John Williams, but that's what you kind of expect in 40 hours, really, I think. This next one, I think, is just the DSE array coming out. I'll slowly the brass and hope that it will work better. This appears at the end of the film when Erica, is the character, figures out that... well, actually, I won't spoil it if you haven't seen it, but yeah, that's just becomes the DSE array. And similar again, this great thing of being able to play the chord pads and just have it come up there. And then the other thing I would do with this is I would make it all legato, and then I would go in and I would extend these notes here so that they would try and stay the same. So this one I actually should have kept the same. So I would have deleted this one and then extended this one out to here so that there were less jumps in it. Same with this one up here, because otherwise the the instruments don't know that they're still playing there, so that it'll play two separate notes. Whereas now, if you listen to that, it'll sound much fuller overall. Not fuller, it'll just sound nicer because there's less gaps in it. Let me skip ahead to where it... Yeah, it's not going to play, is it? There we go. And here there's just one single note change. Rather than having all three notes play again, because there will be a slight gap in that. So that's all that one is. This one is the different love theme, I believe. Yeah, this is the new love theme that appears right at the end of the film. So this is almost the real love theme. Assistant director Isaac said he didn't like that dissonance there, and to that I say it's just the chord pads. Yeah, it doesn't really... I don't know, I couldn't be bothered rewriting it. I probably should have. We're on a time budget. So that's that one there. And then this one is the last thing that I wrote. And this is a mirrored version of the love theme. There's a very simple thing in the MIDI control panel of Cubase. And there's just an option that called functions. Is it in functions? No, it's in... Yes, it is in functions. So functions has the legato feature that I talked about earlier, which just extends the notes out to the whole bar length. And then there's also a mirror function, which just flips the whole thing. So if I mirror this one right now, you see that's the same thing as what we had earlier for the love theme. Whereas when I mirrored it, functions mirror, it just flips it so that now the last note is the starting one. And so when you go to the end here, that's actually the first three notes of the love theme at the end there. So it's all just the same thing, but flipped over. The reason we did that was because the mirror is one of the prompts for the film, and Murray suggested this to me actually. But it was a joint effort. But I said, yeah, we can mirror the music so that the love theme is mirrored when there's a prominent scene with a mirror in the film. So it's exactly halfway in the film, so the whole film's a mirror. They're talking into the mirror, and at the same time, the mirrored version of the love theme is playing. So that's not something you'd really pick up on when you're watching the film. I wouldn't expect you to pick up on that. But once you know it, I think it's quite nice that it happens there. This cello line is actually just copied and pasted from the earlier one. So this is the same A chord and then resolving to a D. And I think it still sounds pretty nice overall. Yeah, and so there I actually changed the way the timing of the things actually. So this note actually, the last note of those mid brass actually plays when the violin comes in as well. But it's playing a D, so it kind of actually makes that resolution a bit nicer. Yeah, it's just, I actually prefer this mirrored love theme slightly more, I think, because it's not as obvious as the Dies Irae. And I think it actually just makes a really nice sounding theme overall. And yeah, that one actually is in the entire piece. This love theme, the one for the end of the movie is mostly in there. I think not all of it. This low brass one is in there for its entirety. This one only has that last little bit there. And this one actually became our credits music. We were thinking of using the love music, and then I was like, actually, let's just make it this really happy montage music, because that's the boppiest kind of one that we could think of overall. So yeah, that's what the project looks like. And as you can tell, it's really kind of basic. It's nothing super complicated compared to other projects that I've done. Like if I was to do a breakdown of, say, the score that I did for that Westworld competition that's also on my YouTube channel. That one has a lot more parts to it, and it's also better crafted, I would say. But for that one, I had the film and I was able to map out where things were going to happen, and I was able to have it be a solid beats per minute for the entire thing. For this one, I have no idea what's going on. You know, the writers are writing it on that first night. I only know the prompts really that first night, so it's a miracle I was even able to get like anything of use. And then that second night, you know, I wrote all this stuff fairly quickly, probably in the space of 6 hours, I want to say. I guess I started writing it about 6 hours or less, actually, probably 4 to 5 hours, if you take into account breaks and dinner and all that other stuff. Probably like 4.5 hours. Not that much really to write this stuff. And that's the biggest thing with 40 hours is you don't have much time to go through and actually perfect what you're writing. Like a lot of this is first draft stuff, but I just didn't have the time to go. I could have, I guess, I could have stayed up later doing it, but it's not the thing that really wins the film. You know, it just has to be good enough. And this one I think really is because the instruments sound nice, it's nicely written, and it really matches with the film quite nicely, which is all you really need. If I was to go through and actually write a proper piece from this, obviously I'd have more instruments, I'd develop the theme more. If you look at that love theme, it's quite basic compared to something like Han and the Princess from Star Wars, but I'm never going to be able to write Han and the Princess because John Williams took well more than the half hour that I spent writing this. In a half hour, John Williams probably would only be able to come up with something like this, I reckon. There's no way that he's going to be able to write a full orchestral score for a film in 4 to 8 minutes. So that's really all you can do for 40 hours. There's not really any point going and making stuff more advanced for it, I would say. I don't really know what else to talk about. That's pretty much it. It's not as exciting, I guess, as maybe what I thought it was going to be. I hope this was interesting. I can definitely do more of these videos if people want. But I thought I'd try it out, give something a little bit longer, and a little bit of insight into how 40 hours works from my point of view. I'm thinking in the weeks ahead I might do a fun video on what makes a good 40 hours film and what's the best way to approach it, and some of the lessons that I've learned from doing the music. Because by now I think I'm actually the longest serving. That's not really the right word though. This is my 4th year doing 40 hours of film, which is definitely some kind of record, I feel. If you've done it for longer than that, call me out in the comments below. And at some point I'm not going to be doing this anymore. That's quite sad, isn't it? But I think it would be good to talk through some of the things I've learned, because comparing this to even previous years' ones, it's so much more efficient what I did this year, so much more efficient and a lot nicer, I think, even if it's not as complicated as what I've done in previous years. Previous years I tend to go over the top. I try and be too advanced with what I was trying to do, and instead really what I wanted was something simple like this, something that's only a couple of instruments that sound really nice, that match up with the tone and the speed of the film, and that's what's important at the end of the day. No one really cares about the music. Like, sure, it sounds nice, and sure, I'll put it on SoundCloud or something later, but at the end of the day, it needs to make sure the film is as good as it can possibly be. And for that, the best thing is to have some really simple music that sounds really good, rather than trying to bite off more than you can chew and having something that doesn't tonally match the film. Because otherwise, if it sounds too good, it's too cheesy. There's an emotional disconnect. This was right on the cusp where there was nothing really super cheesy in the film, and it just kind of worked naturally. But if I'd gone too overboard, it would have made the film way too cheesy. If I'd gone too underboard, it wouldn't have had enough emotional impact in the film. So thank you for watching. Please subscribe if you've made it to the end. Thank you for watching me talk for this long. Hope you enjoyed. Leave a comment if you like, and keep an eye out for the 40 hours premiere of the film. And as I said, you can find that on my Facebook and my Twitter, and I'll probably put it in the description of this video when it's released. Yeah, thanks for watching. Bye.